Kia ora and welcome to the Niggly Niche Cast. I'm the Diggly Dude, Dr. Pepto Panther, Mr. Slippers with the wobbliest wildcard, and we are here to combine our powers in reviewing round one of the Plunket Shield. We're going to go roll through all the scorecards with a couple of notes and key performers and just anything that comes off the top of our dome with regards to Plunket Shield cricket. And our intention is to do this after every round. So if you do enjoy domestic cricket, if you do enjoy Plunket Shield cricket, stay tuned because we ain't going nowhere. Wobbly wildcard. Question A, how are ya? Question B, what was the last musical thing that you listened to?
That's funny because question A and question B are almost the same thing, because question A answer is, yeah, I'm doing fine, I'm in a very good mood, because answer to question B, just got back home I've been reading this book on Muddy Waters, the legendary Chicago blues musician from he crossed several decades, the great man did, and so I was listening to one of his albums on the way home and just absolutely thumping away to that one. So yeah, there you go, answers to A and B both the same thing.
So you're feeling Muddy Waters?
I'm feeling, no, I don't know if I'm feeling Muddy Waters, but I'm feeling good thanks to Muddy Waters.
Yeah, so you interrelated, not the same thing.
Yeah, not quite identical actual things, but they are connected. The irony is that his particular brand of blues is actually like not the kind of music that would make you feel sad at all. It is a cure for feeling sad.
That sounds interesting. I'm sure we can all do with a bit of a cure for feeling sad.
Yeah, there you go. Whip it up on YouTube, matey. You can't go wrong.
Bit of Muddy Waters to get me out of my my slump.
To get you out of the
my
Muddy
run
Waters.
Scoring slump. A couple of yips at the bowling crease.
You wouldn't be alone with a run scoring slump at the moment.
Why?
Well, there's a couple of guys who struggled for runs. There's a couple of guys who did not struggle for runs as well in this opening round, though.
I was going to say, I think I counted 15 players who scored over 50 in an innings in this round of Plunket Shield cricket. So unless you're Jet Raval or Ross Taylor, there were plenty of runs to be had in Plunket Shield round one. What we're going to do is we'll let the wildcard have his little moment in the spotlight and run through the scorecards, and then we'll talk about that game and those teams and those players, and then we'll move on to the next game. So wildcard, we are going to start with Wellington Firebirds versus Otago Volts. This was in Wellington, Basin Reserve, home ground for the Wellington Firebirds, and they enjoyed a rather comprehensive 8-wicket victory over the Otago Volts. Wildcard, how did it go down?
Went down extremely well for Wellington, didn't it? They won the toss, decided to bowl, skittled Otago for 199. Nobody passing 50 for Otago there. Logan Van Beek with 4 wickets, 4 for 43, leading the way there. Wellington responded with 372, 96 to Devon Conway. Rachim Ravinda with a good little innings there as well of 76, opening the batting. Also 82 for Tom Blundell, who had a fantastic opening round of the Plunket Shield, that fella. The funky thing here is that could have been a much bigger score as well, were it not for Jacob Duffy coming in and just bringing absolute heat with that second new ball with 7 for 89. I think he takes something like 6 or 7 wickets in the space of about 5 overs or something like that. But obviously not enough for Wellington, for Otago, who responded by only putting up 219 in the next innings. Foxcroft with 54, top scorer. Duffy chipping in again with 44 with the bat as well. Good game for him, but yeah, Wellington set a target of 47 to win, and they chased it down pretty comfortably, winning by 8 wickets.
That they definitely did, and it's a tough start for the Otago Volts, who weren't so good last season, and they've started
or the year before
in similar fashion. What I will say,
the year before that,
roger that. I will say about the Otago Volts is some good scores from the younger batsmen, especially the new guys. Dean Foxcroft came from CD. He hit that 54 in the second innings, and you also had Nick Kelly, who joined the Volts from Northern Districts Knights. He was like a fringe Plunket Shield player with the Knights, and he's come straight into the first 11 for the vaults in this game. He hit 37 and then 40. So if there are some positives for the vaults, A, it's Jacob Duffy's bowling, and then B, Foxcroft and Kelly scoring not huge runs, but enough runs, promising signs, and good to see the younger batsmen with the vaults and their new recruits scoring a few runs there. Most of the funk's going to sit with the Wellington Firebirds here, wildcards. So we'll start. I just want to talk about some of their run scorers, like Devon Conway, best overall batsman last season, comes out swinging with a 96 here. And then, as you said, Tom Blundell, his 82, which gave him I think he finished that game with a strike rate of 97.61, which was the highest strike rate of any batsman to score over 50 runs in round one. So Tom Blundell was given a good old whack. And just a note on Rachin Ravindra, 19-year-old, averaging 37 in first-class cricket. 10 games, and he's already got 5 half-centuries to his name. So Rachin Ravindra, young dude, averaging 37 in first-class cricket, which is fantastic, and that's going to be a bit of a theme, wildcard. Just in my research for this little episode, I'm going to throw out some career statistics because there's a bunch of dudes who are racking up fantastic numbers that people aren't really recognizing. So Rachin Ravindra, great start, cracked a couple of New Zealand A teams last summer before making his Plunket Shield debut, and he's come out here getting things started with 76 for the Firebirds.
Yeah, and you got Hamish Rutherford out in the second innings as well, chipping in with a wicket too. What was I going to say? Yeah, it's on Tom Blundell. I haven't looked across. Like, we're just going. We're in our first game here. I haven't analysed it as closely as you have. Haven't already written about it, but it seems to me that it was a pretty good round for a lot of these fringe blackcap wicketkeeper batsmen. There were a good couple of them that at least got 50s. One fella in particular got a lovely 100. But we'll come to him later on.
I would go a step further and just say it was a great round for fringe blackcaps. Like, it wasn't maybe the top end blackcaps. So, like, Kane Williamson didn't really do anything. Trent Boult, Tim Southey, Neil Wagner weren't in fabulous form. Like, they were pretty good, as we'll touch on in a jiffy. But the fringe blackcaps, guys like Devon Conway just joined the blackcaps squad for some winter training this year. Tom Blundell's been around the test team. Rachin Ravindra has clearly been identified as a promising batsman, considering how quickly he was ushered into the New Zealand A setup. So those Wellington Firebirds who have some Blackcaps connections or ambitions, and Ravindra, Conway, Blundell, they're among the best batsmen in Aotearoa. They're probably the 3 best batsmen for the Wellington Firebirds, and they just got it straight into action in round one. Lastly, wildcard, I just want to make mention of Malcolm Knopfel. 4 wickets in the second innings, and 3 wickets in the first innings, which makes Malcolm Knopfel the best spinner in Aotearoa right now. He's got 7 wickets all up at an average of 4.28, RPO of 1.69. Now, so that means Malcolm Knopfel is ranked 3rd in wickets after 1 round, and the next best spinner is Dean Foxcroft with 2 wickets at an average of 24. Will Somerville, the Blackcaps in and out test spinner, he also has 2 wickets, but he's averaging 27. So the Malcolm Knopfel, left arm, part-time spinner, good batsman, all-round talent. He is leading all spinning wickets with 7, and that was considerably better than any other spinner. And just quickly, wildcard, we won't go too deep into this rabbit hole, but check out these numbers for some of the Blackcaps spinners. Will Somerville averaged 27 in round 1. Then you had Ajaz Patel, averaged 62. Mitchell Santner, averaged 66. Todd Astle, averaged 130. Ishodi, no average because he didn't take a wicket. So for the straight up and down Blackcaps spinners, it wasn't a fantastic round, but for someone like Malcolm Knopfel, a bit of a tweaker, he took 7 wickets in game 1.
Yeah, a bit early in the season probably for the spinners to be very effective. But, one of the highlights of this round was that a lot of Blackcaps were coming back. And well, all the Blackcaps, basically, anyone who was fit and healthy and ready to go was made available for the Plunket Shield. I think because they're playing England next week, aren't they, in the 2020s? But I think that they've said that, in fact, they have said that the guys who aren't in the 2020 squad, so the test match type players, the longer form players, will be made available for round 2 as well. So that's pretty exciting. Always good to see the Blackcaps. But it seems like another one of those little trends is that most of the Blackcaps didn't come back and absolutely dominate. We'll come back to Emery Nichols later on because he certainly did. But yeah, interesting times there. You've seen guys who are sort of on that fringe really staking a claim against a lot of these guys. And yeah, one guy we mentioned a few times in our big preview was Logan Van Beek. You mentioned wanting to see what he does with the ball. He didn't get any wickets in the second innings, but he did bowl 5 maidens from his 9 overs. However, he took 4 for in the first innings, and also we talked a little bit about Jacob Duffy being a leading man for Otago. He took 9 for over the entire match, including 7 for 89 in the first innings there, which are his best first class figures as well. So a couple guys that you highlighted in the big preview, both coming up pretty useful with the ball there. Duffy even more so. Duffy had a fantastic game. He's going to be a pretty key player for Otago, I think. It doesn't look great for Otago based on their first up result. They're obviously like the 6th out of 6 teams in terms of what people were predicting, but I guess if you look at there, they didn't really get anything from Hamish Rutherford or Neil Broome, the 2 leaders in that batting lineup. So, you'd expect those 2 to do a little bit better moving forward. Dean Foxcroft with his first class 50, which is a very good start for him. Nick Kelly chipping in. So yeah, like they've got, like you said, they got good little contributions from some of the younger guys. So if they're older, more experienced players, and Neil Broome is not going to be scoring like, what did he get, 10 in the second innings and he got 2 in the first. Like, he's not going to have many more games this season where he only scores 12 runs combined. So, there's a few reasons to feel more optimistic, but despite the result here for Otago.
Yeah, I think you're stretching their wildcard.
To be more competitive, not necessarily going to be winning heaps of games.
I just suggested that the young dudes performed well. Like, I'm not going to bank on Neil Broome scoring runs, or even Hamish Rutherford. He was fantastic last year, and he kind of got a bit of a resurgent run back around the Blackcaps, earned a county contract as well. But these other teams are fairly talented. Like, I'll put it this way: like, Jacob Duffy's kind of like a Roger Tuivasa-Sheck. Like, he's there's like, you've got guys like Hamish Rutherford, Neil Broome, so you've got the established NRL players and blah blah blah, but Jacob Duffy's doing it all on his own with the Otago Volts, and they're not going to be overly competitive if they are getting sporadic contributions. Like, they need to be aligned and performing together, coming out, scoring runs together, taking wickets together, instead of relying on one dude in your lineup scoring 50 plus, one dude taking your wickets. That's not how you're going to win games of Plunket Shield cricket. You mentioned Logan Van Beek. Great start for him, but then also a cheeky, low-key, good start for Ben Sears coming into this Wellington Firebirds lineup. Hostile, medium pacer, offers a bit of a point of difference with that bowling attack, and the batting ability of Malcolm Knopfel, Jimmy Neesham and Rachin Ravindra allows for the Wellington Firebirds to have those 4 seamers, Hamish Bennett, Ollie Newton, Logan Van Beek and Ben Sears, all of whom are pretty straight up bowlers. Like, Logan Van Beek can bat a bit, but you're only carrying those 4 seamers with the spinning ability of Ravindra and Malcolm Knopfel, and Basin tends to seam around a bit. So playing 4 seamers is always going to be tricky for any opposition going to the Basin Reserve. Wildcard, can you take us through Auckland Aces versus Central District Stags? Auckland Aces won by 38 runs. Great start for them, and your turn.
Yeah, Central Stags won the toss, decided to have a little bit of a bowl, and they took care of Auckland for 210. You got 50s there for Guptill and Glenn Phillips, which had Auckland in a pretty decent position there at 1 for 90 odd for a while there to be bowled out for 210. Probably not the ideal thing that they envisioned them from that start. Stags shared the wickets around nicely. Tickner and Luddick both with 3. Central then responded only by putting up 169. Matt McEwen with 4 wickets there. It's Brad Schmulian, isn't it, with 74 not out. Absolutely nothing from the tail here from Central. Ross Taylor out for 2 as well, not ideal. So yeah, Schmulian carrying the innings there and getting them through to something half decent. Auckland followed up by declaring rather, I thought a little bit generously, declaring at 189 for 9, with Ben Horn getting 55 not out, and Somerville chipping in with a little 42 at the end there. 3 wickets for Seth Ranson, that one, 3 wickets for Will Luddick as well, which left Central Stags with 231 as a target on the last day. There's a little bit of rain throughout, so it was slightly shortened, but it still had a couple sessions to chase 231, a little more than that, I think. So they didn't actually get particularly close. They were bowled out for 192. Matt McEwen again with 4 for 39, took 4 for in each innings. 72 for Dan Cleaver as well, as another one of those wicketkeepers getting some runs. But Matt McEwen is where I wouldn't mind starting here, because that guy looks like... I was thinking, watching some of his wicket highlights, he's a little bit like the new Michael Bates for Auckland, just going and bowling sort of like medium pace, a little bit quicker than medium pace, but just nipping it away slightly, keeping it nice and tight. And like, this dude doesn't look like a high quality athlete. He looks a little bit like a pub cricketer, and then he just comes out and takes mass wickets all the time. He's bloody useful, that guy. 4 for 39 and 4 for 51. So 8 for 90 for the match is a pretty outstanding, effectively a match-winning contribution from that guy.
Matt McEwen was the 3rd best seamer last summer in the Plunket Shield. He took 24 wickets at an average of 21.45, in keeping with his career average of 26.36 in 44 first-class games. So Matt McEwen has a proven track record of being a bit of a nightmare at the Plunket Shield level, and that's a really good start for him and that young Auckland seam attack, because Matt McEwen is the OG, he's the veteran, and then you got Kyle Jamieson, Jamie Brown, and Sean Solier dabbles in a bit of medium pace as well. Then Will Somerville coming in with the spin, and especially that second innings effort from the Auckland seamers to get the win, because at one stage, chasing 231, Central Districts were 151 for 5. In the box seat, you could say, only needing 80 more runs, 5 wickets in hand, should be all good. Then wickets from Sean Solier and Kyle Jamieson and Jamie Brown put the heat back on Central District Stags, and then Matt McEwen comes in to wrap up the tail. So for that Auckland seam attack against a Stags batting lineup that was Worker, Hayes, Smith, Taylor, Schmulian, Cleaver, Luddick, Wheeler, that's another typically stacked Central District Stags batting lineup, and this Auckland seam attack won the game for them, which was a awesome start for the Auckland Aces. You just happened to mention Brad Schmulian, who left Auckland club cricket. I think he played a few A games for Auckland, went down to join Central District Stags, and this is a dude who's played 11 games for the Stags, and he's averaging 40. He's just quietly averaging 40. He sometimes can't even crack that Central District Stags batting lineup, because you got guys like Will Young, Doug Bracewell wasn't there as well, and he usually bolsters the middle order. So plenty of talent around that Stags outfit, but Brad Schmulian never really gets perhaps the praise that someone averaging 40 in first class cricket should be getting. So just shout out to Brad Schmullian. Going back to the start of last season, so his last 6 innings, Brad Schmullian has scored 50, 41, 49, 60, 74 not out, and 32. So for a in and out Central District Stags batsman, that is a fantastic record, and it's a great spot for the Stags to be in, to be able to call in someone like Brad Schmullian just to do a job, and he will be hoping that he can establish himself in that Stags batting lineup.
Yeah, that fantastic is the right word for that. Those are some great stats for a fella who probably isn't a particularly well-known name outside of domestic cricket circles as well. Yeah, I'm looking at this Auckland Aces top, or do we say top 5 or 6 or 7, or however deep we want to go, but specifically that top 4 of Raval, Guptill, Phillips, Chapman, who are all guys who have played international cricket, 2 of them well established at this point, 2 of them looking to get established. All of them have just lived on runs at domestic level in the past. Guptill and Phillips had good starts in the first one. Raval did nothing in the entire game. I think he scored 10 combined runs. And Chapman scored 8 and 31. That's a top 4, though, that is going to play a fair few games, because Guptill is going to disappear now for the 2020s, I assume. Whenever that squad is named, should be relatively soon. But Raval, Phillips, Chapman, that's going to be something that can, hold the fort down for most of this season. And because I think a lot of the test matches will probably align with the Ford Trophy rather than the Plunket Shield that the Blackcaps play. So I think Raval should get a few games this year. That's considering their bowling lineup brought the goods in this first one and pretty much led them to victory here. The preseason expectations for Auckland to be a team challenging for that title are looking rather decent right now, I think.
Jeet Raval and Ross Taylor combined, their 4 innings combined amounted to 30 runs. So good teamwork from those 2 to get to the 30 run mark. You're talking a bit weird about Glenn Phillips here, Wildcard. I reckon Glenn Phillips is straight into the Blackcaps. I don't think Glenn Phillips is going to be... I don't think he's sitting around playing Plunket Shield for too much longer.
You think he'll make the 2020 squad?
I reckon he will. I don't see why he shouldn't. He was fantastic last summer in the Plunket Shield, and he was one of the few Kiwis dominating the Caribbean Premier League, as he has done kind of the last few campaigns over in the West Indies. So, to my mind, Glenn Phillips is one of the best batsmen overall in Aotearoa at the moment, and he's got the skill set to do a job in T20 cricket as well.
Yeah, I'm with you. If they pick him, I'll be absolutely elated with that. We'll see how it goes.
I also you can't make these assumptions that Mark Chapman, Sean Solly are going to score runs. They
I didn't say
have
Solly.
Both had moments. Well, Solier was a couple of years ago. He was one of the most dominant Plunket Shield batsmen in the competition. He's had moments where he's been an absolute force to the same extent as Mark Chapman. So Sean Solly is as talented as those other dudes, but they also have a bit of a track record of being kind of up and down and inconsistent. So
Solier took more wickets than he scored runs in this game. 2 wickets in 1 run.
Yeah, so not a great...
No.
Yeah, so whatever. I'm not as excited about the Auckland Aces as you appear to be. I just don't... I think they're going to have a lot of ins and outs week to week. They've got a reasonably young squad. There are senior veterans there that will lead the way. Kyle Jamieson was pretty impressive with his bowling. Jamie Brown was pretty impressive. I just don't think compared to some of these other teams that the Auckland Aces have the experienced class to be able to deal with other teams. It was a great start. I'm not certain or confident that they are going to be consistently better than other teams, I guess is a good way to say it. The Stags, one player to keep an eye on for the Stags is Willem Luddick. He is the fourth best bowler at the moment, 6 wickets at an average of 12. Just a note here, wildcard, Malcolm Knopfel, Dean Foxcroft, Willem Laddick, all Kiwi Africans. So they're just part of this wave of Kiwi Africans coming into first-class cricket here in Aotearoa. Willem Laddick averages 37 with the bat in first-class cricket and 24 with the ball. So if you're averaging over 30 and under 30 as a Plunket Shield all-rounder, those are fantastic numbers. Over 30, under 30 is kind of my benchmark for an all-rounder. If you're doing that, you're bloody good at this all-round cricket thing. And Willem Laddick, he is only 22 years old. He's played 6 games of first-class cricket, averaging over 30 with the bat, 37 to be exact, and 24 with the ball. So watch out for Willem Laddick as he moves through Plunket Shield. And Dane Cleaver wildcard. I have to talk about Dane Cleaver.
Yes.
Another hugely underappreciated Kiwi cricketer. Never, ever, ever mentioned in the wicketkeeper batsman discussion. I mean, he averages 39 in first-class cricket. And the thing about these wicketkeepers in Aotearoa is they are all good enough to play for their Plunket Shield teams as batsmen. Dane Cleaver could go into any domestic team as a batsman. Tim Seifoot could go into any domestic team as a batsman.
Tom Blundell.
Blundell could go into any team as a batsman. Like, all of these dudes are very, very good batsmen. And Dane Cleaver appears to be behind Tim Seifoot and Tom Blundell in terms of Blackcaps wicketkeeper across all formats. But he's been fantastic in Plunket Shield cricket for a long time now. And, yeah, he hit a 72 in the second innings to make it a competitive game before getting LBW to a little inducker from Kyle Jamieson.
Yeah, I think Kyle Jamieson and Matt McEwen and those guys, that's kind of the key for Auckland, I think. If Glenn Phillips does crack the Blackcaps team in the short term and he's not playing a lot of Plunket Shield, then suddenly their outlook looks a lot different. But at the moment, I think it's just all a matter of whether they can consistently bowl teams out. But they just bowled the defending champs out a couple times. So I'm willing to give them the benefit of the doubt for now.
I will also add very favourable seam bowling conditions in Auckland throughout the week. Plenty of moisture in the air, as is around Aotearoa at this stage of the season. So Seth Rance, for example, let me just pull up some numbers here. Seth Rance took 5 wickets at 18. Willem Laddick took 6 wickets at 12. Matt McEwen took his 8 wickets at 11.25. Blair Tickner took 4 wickets at 22. Jamie Brown, 3 wickets at 21. Ben Wheeler also chimed in with 3 wickets at 23. Kyle Jamieson, 3 wickets at 24. All those dudes were playing in the same game, so it was you could suggest it was a favourable environment for seam bowling.
But the moisture in the wickets, a couple of them looked very green, eh?
Definitely, and that's what makes you kind of I guess alluded to the conditions holding back the Blackcaps spinners, but flip that on its head, and that's what makes Malcolm Knopfel's return quite impressive, is his work spinning the ball. Let me just check where he took his wickets, if you don't mind, wildcard. First innings, Malcolm Knopfel took 3 wickets. All of them were in the lower order, so numbers 9, 10, or 8, 9, 10. So that's a bit of you got to take that with a grain of salt. But then second innings, 4 wickets, and 3 of them were in the top 6 batsmen. So, kudos to Malcolm Knopfel. And we'll go down to Christchurch Hagley Oval, where Canterbury and Northern Districts played out just a stink old draw.
Canterbury won the toss, decided to bat, put up 390, bowled out. Hundreds for Hank Nichols and Cole McConkey. 103 for Nichols, 107 for McConkey. Also got 49 not out from Cam Fletcher, yet another one of them wicketkeeper batsmen doing the trick. this is against a bowling lineup for Northern Districts as well that had Trent Bolt 3 for 70, Tim Southey 1 for 56, Neil Wagner 3 for 130, Daryl Mitchell also relatively established 2020 international player at this point, 2 for 14. He took Ish Sodhi none for 42 and Mitch Santner 1 for 66. So that's an outstandingly good Northern Districts bowling lineup for Canterbury to then come and take pretty solid 390 there. Ended up with a first innings deficit, and a very rain affected game, wasn't it? Both teams only batted once. Northern 498 for 6 when the game was finally called off. 100 for Tim Seifert and 170 not out for Daryl Mitchell. Batted for a long time with Mitch Santner, who was out for 96. Guts, bro. But Daryl Mitchell, it's a shame it was called off when it was. 170 off 264 deliveries with 15 fours, 5 sixes. He was plummeting his way towards or pummeling his way rather, towards a double century there. And yeah, stink, mate. He could have had a huge score there. But as it is, rained off, no dramas, share the points.
So yeah, we'll start with the Canterbury batting card where Henry Nicholls and Cole McConchie both hit centuries. Henry Nicholls coming back tends to do pretty well in domestic cricket especially, and that's where he kind of built that undeniable case to get Blackcaps opportunities. So nothing all that surprising here for Henry Nicholls in hitting a century in the first game of the Plunket Shield. Cole McConchie is where the real interest is with his century. He's averaging 33 in first-class cricket and has someone who has had big runs in him previously, just hasn't been able to kind of consistently get it done. But his last few games, so he's had scores of, going back to the start of the second stanza of Plunket Shield cricket earlier this year, he put up scores of 32, 24, 162, 37 not out, 35, 1 not out, and 107. So Cole McConchie's in a quiet little patch of form, which is good for him. He did move into some Aotearoa A cricket last summer, and he just came out here against the Blackcaps bowling attack and just whacked 107, which was great to see. Any thoughts on those Blackcaps bowlers for ND Wildcard?
Well, I mean, they all got wickets mostly, except for the spinners. So it's not like, and Tim Southey, who only got 1 wicket, was only going at 2 and over. So it's not like they rocked up and just like tossed a bunch of pies down there. They chipped away. They were just up against, I don't know, I don't think there was anything terrible there. I think it was just sort of stock standard. On another day, maybe Neil Wagner would have had 6 for or something like that. But Nicholls and McConchie did pretty excellent.
I was opening it up to positive things as well. You can positively talk about them. Well,
that's the thing. I think it wasn't positive or negative. I think it was just a sort of, good old game from those fellas. Just keep warm, as they say, Nothing special, nothing terrible.
Yeah, you can definitely put them in that, solid performance. Northern Districts needed them to be a bit better, but this game was kind of plodding along, and then Tim Seifert came out, whacked a century. Daryl Mitchell went large with the century. Mitchell Santner gave it a good old whack as well. And the reason I ask you about those Blackcaps bowlers wildcard is because Canterbury put up 390 in a fairly solid bowling effort, and Northern Districts put up 498, and basically this game just fizzled out to a batathon. I am rather low on the Canterbury bowling attack. Matt Henry definitely helps, but if Matt Henry's gone, there is the rest of the bowling attack, seam bowling attack anyway, was Ed Nuttall, Will Williams, Andrew Hazeldine. All due respect to those bowlers, we can't see pace. You can kind of sense pace from the little highlights and stuff like that. They just kind of look like very plain medium pace bowlers, and if they're not moving the ball around, I think you saw what is going to happen to that Canterbury bowling attack. And there's a fairly solid batting lineup, but if you take out Tom Latham and Henry Nicholls, is Canterbury they have to rely on those young dudes, guys like Jack Boyle, Leo Carter, Chad Bowes takes on some greater responsibility. Ken McClure could come in as well. All those dudes are young and they're still getting into their Plunket Shield careers, so you're not going to get consistent runs from those lads. And it's just, I'm going to be very interested to see what happens with Canterbury. Like, there's a world in which they really struggle throughout the Plunket Shield and can't do anything, and they kind of drop to that Otago Volts level, or Otago Volts rise to the Canterbury level, however you want to view it. But I can see a situation where those teams are struggling throughout the Plunket Shield. But then I can also see Canterbury just coming out of nowhere and, Ed Nuttall having a fantastic campaign, or, some of those young run scorers really churning out the runs, and Todd Astle not making Blackcaps teams, and he's just a dominant force. So whatever direction they take it in from this point, I'm going to be very interested in tuning in just to see who drags Canterbury forward, who takes this Canterbury team and says, yo, we're not going to be shit, we're going to be good, and I am going to lead the way.
Yeah, that's a fair question. I mean, considering all of their bowlers, basically, except Cole McConkey, who bowled as the sixth option, took one wicket. And there was also a run out. So, no one really seemed to get into a spell where they were just hurling down heat. And Matt Henry, 1 for 80. Again, run rate under 3 and over, it's all right, it's fine. But as a black cap leading that unit who's not going to be there each week, they probably would have liked a little bit more. Ed Nuttall, 1 for 101 from 16 overs. Run rate of 6.31. Got munted by Daryl Mitchell a little bit there towards the end there to blow it all out. I think the most concerning one there is Todd Astle, 1 for 130, but I guess you can also say that is a little bit par for the course for most of the spinners. Northern Districts had 2 guys he's in competing with for Blackcaps selections, most squads that are picked in all formats really, and Sodhi and Santner, and they combined for 1 for 108, so not a whole lot difference. I think we can probably... it's an asterisk, but we can at least say that early season, the seamers tended to get most of the overs. It was also the case in the Auckland Central game that the spinners weren't going over the top with their contributions. So maybe it's not such a big deal yet. That's the thing with all these games. When there's one game, it's easy to overreact or underreact or whatever. Once you've got 2 games, you've got something to compare it to, and that's when patterns start forming and all that kind of thing. So it's next week, isn't it, the next round? So they're straight back into it. I suppose that's a good thing for everyone, really.
Everything I said, you've got to take it with a level of context, because a Blackcaps bowling attack they bowled out Canterbury for 390. So in similar conditions, if a Blackcaps bowling attack bowled a team out for 390, you would expect the non-Blackcaps bowling attack to go for 490. They seem, with the context of one bowling attack being a Blackcaps bowling attack, they seem like even results. So even though I was kind of down on the Canterbury bowlers, we only got 2 innings in this game, and it's like a bit of a handicap. One team's got a whole lot of Blackcaps bowlers, so you're kind of giving a 100-run handicap. That's fair enough if one team is stacked with a bowling attack of Blackcaps and the other bowling attack isn't quite on the same level. So it just feels like an even finish.
Yeah, and I suppose the other thing to say on the mirror image of that is that while their bowlers did struggle, it's probably fair to say, certainly their game got away with them once it started to look like it wasn't heading towards a result, but that's also a Northern District's batting lineup full of Blackcaps. Not all current Blackcaps, Daniel Flynn and Dean Brownlee aren't going to be playing again anytime soon, but every single one of those players in that Northern Districts team has played international cricket, and most of them, well, in fact, I'd say all of them. Daryl Mitchell would be the least experienced international player, having played, he's been in and out of the 2020 team for a couple summers now, so that's not insignificant. All of them have played a decent amount of international cricket then, so it's also a tricky task for the bowlers to have to deal with there as well.
Yeah, so a Black Caps batting lineup and a Black Caps bowling attack, you expect a 100-run kind of handicap in that situation. So it is important to make that notes. You did mention the RPO. I think RPO and economy rate is a statistic that needs a certain... It's one of those statistics where you need to package it with other things, because Tim Southey can bowl 28 overs at 2 runs per over, but if you're the Canterbury batsman, you're playing Tim Southey with a certain level of respect, and
you'll take that if he's not taking wickets.
Yeah, so if you're RPO just means that the batsman didn't score a whole lot of runs, but then it's all about wickets in Plunket Shield cricket. You're only going to win games taking wickets, so it's good to see Trent Boult and Neil Wagner both taking 3 wickets each and just getting involved in the wickets. And you could say someone went wicketless and conceded 0.5 RPO, and a team still got smoked, even though one of their bowlers was hugely economical. So just keep that in mind as we're listening to us analysing Plunket Shield cricket. Any thoughts on that Daryl Mitchell, Tim Seifert century action? Mitchell Santner just looked like he was out there having a bit of fun. So don't really need to stress too much about Mitchell Santner, but what do you make of the Mitchell Seifert innings?
That's another contextual one, because it wasn't... Well, Seifert's was huge because it meant that they weren't under any pressure after losing Daniel Flynn early on. And also, Kane Williamson chipping in with 26. It's a solid little start. It's nothing terrible, but it's also Henry Nicholls had already turned up in this game. You sort of assume Kane Williamson, just any time he bats, especially dropping down to Plunket Shield level, you just kind of automatically assumed he was going to score 300 not out or something like that. Obviously, that wasn't going to be the case, but Tim Seifert just carrying the way. Has he always been an opener at Plunket Shield level as well? Because that's sort of another little wrinkle is in terms of when you're thinking about where possible openings may come at Blackcaps level. He's scored a century here opening the batting as well. I don't know if that's something he does regularly or not.
I think a lot of his opportunities have come opening in Plunket Shield cricket. Either that or kind of 5-6 range, because sometimes BJ Watling might open if the Black Caps are around, or Central Districts do have Henry Cooper as well, who can come in and open in the long form stuff. So I'm not too sure, but I believe he's tended to be at the top of the order in Plunket Shield cricket, and Tim Seifert is a dude who... Tim Seifert and Glenn Phillips are kind of my little favourites at the moment, just in how they are poo-pooing the perception of what they are good at. Glenn Phillips is averaging 41 in first-class cricket. Tim Seifert's averaging 38 in first-class cricket. Tim Seifert in domestic cricket is only averaging 23 and 22 in List A and T20 cricket. So he hasn't really done a whole lot in the shorter formats. Glenn Phillips is a bit better in the shorter formats, averaging 31 in List A and T20 cricket. But for anyone with a first-class average of the high 30s, early 40s is doing a fantastic job, and that's Tim Seifert and Glenn Phillips, who perennially kind of overlooked for long-form batting antics.
Yeah, and on Daryl Mitchell, I'm just looking at his first-class stats. He averages 35.59. That was his 7th first-class century along with 2050s. That's a legit first class batsman right there, old Daryl. For a guy who got into the Blackcaps as a 2020 guy to be able to roll the arm over a few times and maybe have a big whack down the sort of lower middle order type areas, I think is probably where he was bad, and I'll have to check that to be sure. But that's another guy in that same vein of what you're just saying about Seifert, because his prominence for New Zealand cricket fans, for the casual New Zealand cricket fans, would be seeing him playing 2020s. This is a guy with 7 first-class centuries as well, and this was his career high score, I believe. And man, it's just a shame that the game ended when it did, because he was on pace for a double hundy there.
I don't mean to come at you and attack you here, Wildcard, but this is more for the listeners. I'd say anyone coming into that Blackcaps T20 team has a far better first-class record than T20 cricket.
Well, no, that's actually been the case more often than not.
It's definitely the case. I'm not fucking around here. It's Tim Seifert and Glenn Phillips who have led the way in that regard. They have
Chuck
consistently
Ferguson and the ODI team as well. Same deal.
Yeah, so I've been talking about this for multiple seasons, that these dudes dominate first class cricket, and then they are brought into the T20. However the Blackcaps want to organise their development pathways, that's all good, but from a fan perspective, fans need to know that anyone coming into that Blackcaps T20 team is probably doing a better job in Plunket Shield than T20 cricket. And there's someone else I wanted to mention as well. Mark Chapman. Mark Chapman came in and he kind of only got limited over stuff, but he was scoring Plunket Shield runs as well. And that's where these guys catch my attention with what they're doing in Plunket Shield and Ford Trophy, but these guys catch the public's attention by how they enter the Blackcaps setup, which is usually in T20 cricket. So from a rather educated standpoint, I'm telling all the listeners, all the beautiful people listening to this, when you see someone enter the Blackcaps T20 team, definitely go to their Cricinfo profile straight away and check out their first class stats, because most of these dudes, their best format is first class cricket, is Plunket Shield cricket, and the wildcard is kind of alluded to the Blackcaps using the T20 format as a way to bring players into the Blackcaps setup as a development pathway, and how that intersects with the World T20 coming up, because World T20 means that you're just trying to win a world international competition, as opposed to sporadic T20 series. But there is whether it's Lockie Ferguson, whether it's Glenn Phillips, whether it's Tim Seifert, Daryl Mitchell as well, these dudes are proven performers at the Plunket Shield level. For many of these dudes, their best format is Plunket Shield cricket, and that's where they earn their stripes, and then they get into that realm of the public knows me for my T20 cricket because I'm in the Blackcaps T20 team, whereas we're here to tell you about what's happening at the Plunket Shield level, where these dudes tend to do their best work.
Yeah, another one I just had a sneaking suspicion and looked it up right now, and it's absolutely true, is Tom Bruce. First class average of 43.06. He's only played 2020s for New Zealand internationally. 15 2020s, and no other, he hasn't played an ODI or a test match yet. So, I mean, there's two ways to look at that, I think. Well, two ways to complement that idea, I think. One is that, yeah, they do tend to use 2020 cricket as a bit of a gateway to international cricket, which outside of that World Cup 2020 picture is perfectly reasonable. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. It's actually quite a good idea. It's for a disposable international format like 2020 internationals, it's a pretty decent way to use it. The other one is that whole idea about like batsmen being able to go up and down between, and bowlers too, cricketers being able to go up and down between formats, and the idea being that a great 2020 specialist often they struggle at other formats, whereas a great test player can probably play in all three formats. Like it's just like the great test players are the most well-rounded cricketers, and they can just do whatever they like. Kane Williamson, for example. Kane Williamson can do whatever he wants in whatever situation he wants. So, like, I suppose it's the same thing there. The best cricketers in New Zealand are the ones who are going to be putting up the best scores and taking the most wickets in Plunket Shield cricket, because that's the best indication of the quality of a cricketer.
Roger that. No Tom Bruce in this round either, so I don't think I mentioned that in my team list podcast earlier in the week. So watch out for Tom Bruce returning to that Central Stags lineup, as well as Will Young. The next round gets underway Tuesday or Wednesday. So Wellington Firebirds host the Canterbury team on Tuesday next week. So that'll be a great test for the Canterbury bowlers to see how they can perform on what should be favourable conditions in Wellington against a good Wellington team. Northern Districts Knights versus Central District Stags in Tauranga on Wednesday. So Wellington versus Canterbury starts on Tuesday, and then Wednesday ND versus CD in ND territory. And then Otago Volts hosting Auckland Aces also gets underway on the Wednesday at the University of Otago Oval.
And then on Friday, the Blackcaps play England in the first of 3 2020s, or is it 5 2020s? I think it might be 5, eh? Yeah, it's 5.
Yeah, plenty of
T20s, yes.
Just to finish here, Wildcard, we have a Blackcaps T20 squad.
Oh, hot off the press.
Hot off the press. Tim Sally's going to captain. Kane Williamson's withdrawn with a right hip injury. To me, that just smells like Kane Williamson wants to chill out, which is all good. So we'll just make up an injury for him and let him not play. The Blackcaps T20 squad. No Glenn Phillips.
Oh, devastating.
That's a bummer. Tim Southey's going to captain. Trent Bolt for games 4 and 5. Colin de Grandhomme, Lockie Ferguson, games 1 and 3. So Lockie Ferguson and Trent Bolt will swap. Martin Guptill, Scott Kugelheim, Daryl Mitchell, Colin Munro, Jimmy Neesham comes in. Mitchell Santner, Tim Seifert, Ish Sodhi, Ross Taylor, and Blair Tickner. So Blair Tickner coming in is a notable selection. And then Jimmy Neesham's return as well. So I can't remember the Blackcaps T20 squad from the Sri Lankan series, but if you are capable of reading, you will be able to read all about the changes to the Blackcaps T20 squad that I will write about tomorrow or Sunday. See how we go.
No Seth Ranson, no Hamish Rutherford, I notice. I assume Tickner for Rance makes sense. Jimmy Neesham getting in there is a good idea. He should have been in there already. And I suppose Glenn Phillips, big disappointment to miss out, considering he did plunder some Caribbean 2020 stuff. But it means my theory about the Auckland top order gets to continue. What was their game? They're playing Otago.
In Otago. Yeah,
down
so you
Otago.
Might get a few Auckland runs
there. You go.
there.
Yes, if the first round's anything to go by.
I'm still confident about Glenn Phillips, and what I'm predicting here, Wildcard, is that there's a bit of a trend emerging of Colin Munro struggling. So, he hasn't done anything of note in 2019. So if Colin Munro does continue to struggle, I think that's when you'll see Glenn Phillips get a little bit of an opening there.
Yeah, he's the obvious candidate to come in for him, isn't he? Not just in terms of the fact that he is a guy who can open the batting in 2020, but he also just the style he plays is not dissimilar to Colin Munro, but the difference is that Glenn Phillips does actually have a couple different gears he can bat at. Because he started, when he came in his 50 in the first innings, he was hitting fours all over the show, scoring it close to a run a ball, and then he came out after lunch and really slowed it down. And I remember him doing that at a game I watched last season as well. Similar things where he went through a period where he just wasn't scoring runs at all, but he was just like nice and steady, forward defensive, leave it if it's wide, no dramas, get through the tricky spells, cash in on the dangerous ones. So yeah, big future for that guy. Good to see his brother getting a run as well. I guess that means he'll get to play against his brother in Otago, doesn't it?
Definitely, and I think Dale Phillips was batting number 3 for Otago as well. So you could have Glenn Phillips batting number 3 for Auckland and Dale Phillips batting number 3 for Otago, which will be a train spotter's dream, of which there tends to be quite a few train spotters in cricket fandom. So I'm sure everyone will enjoy that. We'll wrap it up there, Wildcard. The beautiful, beautiful wrap-up of Plunket Shield action. So if you do enjoy Plunket Shield cricket, domestic cricket, stay tuned. And if you enjoy what the Niche Case is doing, if you enjoy the Niche Cast, support us on Patreon. It's the best way to support us, straight up the guts, direct to us, and we reciprocate it back out to you. I guess like a sausage machine. You put the meat in, and then it comes out the other end in a sausage. So that's kind of what's going to happen there, if you catch my drift. And stay beautiful. Enjoy your weekend. Kia kaha. Enjoy your local club cricket on a Saturday as well. And then we'll be back next week talking more cricket. So stay tuned. Cheer, cheer.